Hey everyone, I'm Daniel. I am joined today by a very special guest. This is Billy, who is involved with the Arkham Con organization team. As you can see right here, obviously from the thumbnail, title, and the website that we're looking at, we're talking all about Arkham Con 25, the con in yellow. So, welcome. I'll let you talk about this a bit, and then I can talk about my experiences with Arkham Cons in the past too. But why don't you go ahead and start us off?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on your channel, and yeah, we're really excited to roll this out. So it basically Arkham Con 2025 came about because we, caught word early on that the Busters were going to take a break from BusterCon, and so from a community standpoint, from a momentum standpoint, there were a decent handful of us that have gone in the last few years that weren't okay with just letting that momentum go, letting that like sense of community go. Um, needless to say, it was an absolute amazing experience 2 times in a row for me personally. So yeah, we decided to move forward with this, but we needed to make sure that we kind of got the Buster's blessing, just to make sure we weren't stepping on anybody's toes. We've gotten that blessing. Um, is honestly, as soon as the if the Busters are ready to come back and like run their thing, we step aside. That was the agreement. So all of that said, yeah, we have definitely like organized this year's sort of like Arkham Con, which we ended up calling it that because it made sense, and so we're just really excited to put this together for folks. Well, Arkham Con is a 4-day convention based solely around Arkham Horror, the card game, and you know, I don't think I'm surprising anyone when I say that, if someone's interested in coming to Arkham Con, they probably play a lot of Arkham Horror, the card game. It might be one of your favorite games in the world. I'm not speaking from.
If you're watching YouTube videos consistently about Arkham Horror the card game, probably you're interested in playing the game a lot, and maybe you don't get the chance to do so in groups with other like-minded people. So when I've gone before, it's been a great time for even just that reason.
Exactly. So yeah, that's what you can effectively expect. And we'll get to that as we kind of like scroll through like the daily schedule. But like you have a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you know, um, day allotment. Thursday and Friday are split up into open gaming slash specific events that you can kind of like hop into. So those events are usually and primarily epic multiplayer standalone events. So we're talking about the blob that ate everything. We're talking about machinations through time, scenarios like that. What's the new one? Midwinter Gala. I'm sure that's going to be there. So we're going to have a lot of those spaced out. We're even going to have one of our epic multiplayer, which is Blob, be a charity event, which is very very exciting. Yeah, you probably remember that from last year. And so then we get to Saturday. Saturday is one of the main events, and it is the Ironman event. It is a marathon speed run style Arkham game. Uh, and your goal is to finish an entire campaign from start to finish within 1 day's time. And this year, we are rolling out the Return to the Path of Carcosa as that campaign. So, hence the title.
Yeah, so the con in yellow. And you got a picture here. It
Right.
looks like from last year's, which was Edge of the Earth. I don't know whose photo that was, but it looks like they were playing, I don't know, Ursula Downs or something. But yeah, this is like a big shared experience. And uh, everyone is playing the same campaign, and you kind of see who makes it through. And we'll talk more about that in a second since I participated in the last two of them. I've got some stories to tell too. So let's take a look at the website and maybe go into some more detail. So let's take a look at the website. It's a beautiful website. I really like this. So you got other buttons up here for looking at the schedule and information about attending. We'll get to that, but you'll kind of walk me through about what information we have here. So about the event, indeed, you mentioned that this is a 4-day event, and it's kind of this continuation, spiritual continuation of BusterCon, which was the last 2 years. And if we haven't mentioned yet, then we should say where this is. It is in Minnesota. It's at the Game Center in Roseville, Minnesota, which is part of the Minneapolis metro area. It's like right next to St. Paul, right?
Yeah. Well, yes, that is true. That is true.
Pretty easy to get to. There's an airport. You can drive to it if you live somewhat close. And the Game Center itself, do you want to talk about like what that is?
Well, I think the game center is, in effectively right now at this point, it's just a like a game shop. If I recall correctly, it used to be the headquarters of Fantasy Flight. But they kind of exist across the parking lot now in a big warehouse. But the game center is hosting the event, and it takes place on September 11th through 14th. Um, One thing I want to say about the event is that if you were to look up the game center, it's going to give you different opening times than the event's opening times, and we've sort of arranged for them to open a couple hours earlier. So the event pretty much every day starts at 10 a.m. And so if you go online and look and that doesn't line up, don't panic. They're going to open up for the attendees at 10 a.m. every day.
Yeah, especially for that Ironman where we need all 12 hours probably. So yeah, this is a pretty easy and interesting place to go to if you haven't been to a game store that has spaces attached for you to play games at. Game Center is probably one of the biggest ones that I've ever been to. There's a huge room. You're expecting what, a maximum of 125 or so attendees, something like that.
Yeah, we are expecting that, and we're on track to make that goal. So, yeah, we're anxious, but we're also excited. We're really excited about the process.
And indeed, it's like right across the parking lot from FFG itself. So expect to see, some cool maybe developers or some celebrities we might call them in attendance, including yours truly. I'll be there. So I'm not a celebrity, but the others that will be there, you'll recognize some faces. There's also going to be an event I think on your schedule, which we'll see in a second, where the developers give a little bit of a panel, and that's been a huge success in the past couple of years. Really fun to do a little Q&A with them. All right. There's some FAQs here. Where do I stay? Well, pretty much everyone stays at the DoubleTree, which is literally walking distance across the parking lot, kind of around the corner a bit. And then you've got a special room rate for attendees.
We do, yeah. It's about 140 a night, 139 to be exact. And I mean, I personally, in order to make it affordable for me, I usually like bunk with another person, so we're splitting the cost. You get two queen beds out of it. That's something that you can request when you book the rooms. Um, but I think honestly, the coolest part is that like you're in like really close walking distance from the DoubleTree Hotel to the game center. I mean, it's like, correct me if I'm wrong, it's like a 2 to 3 minute walk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty close. It's not a scenic walk, but you are. I mean, since so many people are staying there as part of the con. I mean, the people who are local, of course, are don't have to do that, but it's part of the community that you are engaging with. You see them for breakfast. There's a breakfast with the room, of course, and you get to hang out there and then walk with them over to the game center when you're ready to play some games. So I find that that's like the most fun about going to an event like this, is being part of the community. And often we see each other online as Discord usernames and whatnot, but actually we get to be real people in uh, in the event. In fact, that goes into
Exactly.
the "what if I don't know anyone" question below.
Yeah. So I would say that you're going to meet a lot of people. That now, that's easy for me to say. I'm quite the extrovert. However, if you are, leaning towards, the introverted side, at the event, we are going to have red little flags on all of the tables. And when you see a red flag, that means that a specific table is looking for players. So, you know, feel free to, to use that to your advantage. The other thing, too, I got to say is like, there's kind of nothing like going to an event that everyone at the event loves the game that you're playing. So really there's no shortage of like things to talk about with people, even if you don't know them. Um so yeah, if you don't know anyone, you're pretty much going to be in an environment that is kind of catering to you personally.
Yeah, the first year that I went in 2023, I didn't know anyone. I, I'd seen that some people were talking about going, but I just met people, talked to them, and then you kind of make a few friends um, during the games. And some people are people that you say, well, next, let's organize a game for next time. There's several days where you might be participating in different groups, so that's cool. And then of course there are people who know each other already, and then you might be able to weasel your way into one of their groups and meet even more people that way. So again, you're right. If you're extroverted, this is not a problem. If you're introverted, this sounds kind of scary, and I understand. But we're all, fans of this niche game. We're all a little socially awkward to some extent, right? Uh, and that means that we give each other a lot of grace in that respect. We'll learn a lot about each other and have a good time in the process. So we're there for the game, but you'll come away meeting some people and making some friends. I'm excited just to go back this year to see some of the people that I've met in the past 2 years. Uh, that
Yeah,
brings us to
I
Ironman,
could
right? Because Ironman is part of a way that you can meet people a little bit less organically, but are kind of assigned friends, I suppose.
Well, so let's get into the how do I prepare, because that actually is going to be for most of the standalones, but also for Iron Man. I would say minimally, if you were to come, bring 3 decks: one enemy management deck, one Kluver deck, and one Flex deck. If you want to bring more decks, if you are psycho like me, for example, and want to bring 8 decks, but only are probably going to bring, play a 4 or 5, totally do that. I just like, I like the options of like to choose certain things. But minimally bring 3 decks, and then also, if you so desire, if you have the room in your packing, bring some of the standalones that will be played. You've got Labyrinth of Lunacy, you've got any of the epic multiplayers, Labyrinth of Lunacy, Machinations Through Time, the Blob that ate anything. What am I missing? Eh, There you go, War of the Outer Gods, Midnight Gala, those kinds of scenarios. Definitely bring those. Um, and as we get closer, if we have any specific events, they will go up on the calendar, and we'll take a look at the calendar a little later. But so that's what I would bring to prepare. For all of the Arkham stuff you want to bring. Also, bring a chaos bag with your own separate tokens, just in case, if for whatever reason, if your table doesn't have one, you're prepared, you've got one handy, good to go.
I will also say, I totally agree with that, but it's also fun if you're the kind of person who has invested in some special tokens, any other swag that you have from previous events that you want to, I don't want to say show off, but I always enjoy looking at everyone's different setups there. The player mats they want to bring. Again, it's based on if you can fit it into your luggage, but how cool is it to see someone's special custom tokens and you're like, hey, where do I buy that? So
Okay,
yeah,
so side note, someone last year brought a whiteboard, and they had their own special chaos tokens with magnets they have like a magnetic whiteboard. And if you're on Tabletop Simulator on the Arkham mod, and you can see the layout of all the tokens, they did that in real life, IRL, and it was fantastic because you could see all the odds right in front of you.
that's so cool. That's a great idea. So yeah, you're gonna learn a lot from different people. My first one that I went to, there was a member of our group that was had basically the same idea as that TTS has for action tokens. So to keep track of how many actions you've taken. Usually it's not a big
Right.
deal if you only have 3 actions, but this person was playing a deck that ended up having like 5 or 6 actions every turn. Which also I think we could talk about what to prepare in terms of the kinds of decks you might want to bring. I like to keep it personally pretty simple because you're uh, most of these decks you're going to play in a standalone. One deck you'll bring for Ironman if you choose to participate in that, but you'll bring all your weaknesses and whatnot. But I like to keep the standalone decks pretty simple, so I'm not like I only get one shot at them. Right? You want to do something kind of cool and interesting, but not something that's going to be totally useless if you didn't draw the one card it's trying to be built around. So um, do a mix, a mix of like something cool you want to have people talk about forever, because that does happen, and then something that's just like brutally efficient that you don't want to think about too much. Because
Yeah,
man, the
I
brain
would agree with
drain
that.
during the whole event I think is real because you're gonna be playing Arkham a lot. And when I play a deck, I'm usually playing it, start to finish without too much other intervening campaigns. So I can get to I know the deck pretty well. But for a con, I think there's so much going on. You don't want to be thinking too much about like, oh wow, this is in the deck. Maybe bring like a printed out deck list to help if you're talking with other players. Like, hey, what's in your deck? What can I contribute? And also the unique ally thing, right? If you want to switch out to some other deck that is different from someone else. So though usually in a con like this, you kind of throw out the unique rule because you're not going to make someone rebuild a deck just because you both have Peter Sylvester or something.
Yeah, I would say if you got to that point and it was like, if you want to play by the rules, oh well, shoot, I can't play then. No, 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 that's not an option. I think for anyone at the con, like people want you to play. So that being said, Charlie Kane. I mean, like if you're planning on bringing like a Charlie Kane deck, for example, you know, keep in mind that that is a problem that you're going to run into. I mean, last year I brought a Charlie Kane deck that was the what is it, the Charlie Kane Zookeeper, where it was like mostly just like animals, and that was a really safe Charlie Kane deck to like bring to this con.
Yeah, I wouldn't bring unless you're driving or something like all of your player cards. Most people who go to this con are going
No,
to have a full or close to full collection. So that's a lot of binders. That's a lot of boxes. Don't do that. Maybe a few
yeah,
stray cards that aren't in particular decks, but you might want to build them ahead of time. Maybe you've got a cool storage box for your decks, and you could go from there. I mean, I wouldn't stress it too much. It's just for fun, really. All of this is for fun.
oh yeah, indeed.
All right, your last comment here. What else should I look forward to?
Could you read? It's a little blurry on my screen. Could you read that out loud?
Yeah, it just says as we get closer to the con, we'll be publishing a full schedule of events, giving previews of the swag you'll receive, talking about food, and telling you about any other tricks we have up our sleeves. Do you have anything that you can secretly tell me on YouTube here that hasn't been published yet
Secretly
on?
tell you. Well, okay. So something that we're looking forward to. There are a few new things that we're rolling out for this con that have not yet been seen. Um, One of the things is pub trivia. So we're going to do a little Arkham pub trivia, and that's going to be there. I well, I guess when we scroll through the schedule, we'll see it, but it's going to be there on one of the days, and we're really excited for that, just because it's something that is low stakes, but still like really connected to the game itself. Now, oh yeah, oh yeah, totally, it's so super fun. Um, yeah,
What is the card with the highest cost in the game? Now we have a new answer for that. It is a 20 costed event from the Drowned City. So
oh my gosh, oh, you have a distinct advantage. You guys pour over those cards like, oh yeah, that's great. Now other things, we're gonna have some other new things, and boy, would I love to share them with you, but we're just not ready to do it. A few of the things are still in development, and we're really committed to having those be in the con. But again, let me just say that there are never before seen things, and man, are we excited. Oh my gosh. Like I want to spill the beans right now. That's how excited I
All right, how much do I have to slip you to spill the beans over the video, right?
am. Well, it says admit 10 cents, so maybe 10 tickets and I'm good.
So let's talk
Uh,
about the tickets. In the previous events, they've just been here's the rate you're that's the rate you're done, I think. And it was done through Games Enter. I don't know if this is also similarly where the payment goes through, but the tickets are available now, and there's three different versions. So because the capacity of the Games Enter is limited, we're not going to see 500 people there. It's just going to be relatively limited. So there's a special for making decisions early, the early bird special. I love that you put here the some hints at card names. That if you take the initiative, then you'll get the best price, $75, and that's through the end of March, and that gets you
yeah.
everything, right?
Yep. Totally. Um uh Really this tiered system is for no other reason than to make costs doable for us on our end. So just due to the expenses, we we want to have things like swag uh, and basically the more tickets we sell, the more swag we're gonna get. So ultimately, like that's we were probably in a less favorable position financially, so that's why we had to kind of like up the prices from last year. So our apologies for that, but yeah, that's this 75 is going to be through March 31st, and then it's going to up to 85 through July, and then it'll be 95 all the way basically to the con.
Yeah, I think the swag is really fun. I've got a group of players here that I play with in person, and just to come back from the con and show off the cool things that I got. Some of it's like in the last couple of years was through the con itself. They gave away things like a player mat, um, some tokens, and things like that. Some alternate prints of things. But sometimes there's people who they're just giving out stuff just for going and talking with them. They've got their own set of alternate art of various things, or I've got one of the excuse me, the out of play area cards that I've got from uh, one other member. That those are really neat. So like walk around, talk to people. They'll give you something interesting to take home with you. So just
So what
going, I
was
think,
your
is cool.
favorite thing that you got last year?
Um, Honestly, I think the name tag, the team name tag that was given to us for the Ironman Edge of the Earth competition was really cool. Mine is
Yeah.
was the Wuck Wuck team, so the
Yeah.
art on there was really cool. Got to kind of wear that around with pride. What about you?
Well, our yeah, I mean those were incredible. I'm actually looking at them right now to my left. I would say to this day, nothing really tops the ancient evils, live, laugh, love, alternate encounter cards. Unbelievable. So funny.
I use those now in
Yeah.
person too. They're so funny.
Yeah.
I'll put up an image of that on the screen, and hopefully they'll make it another appearance this year.
Yeah. But we have a lot of that kind of stuff in design. Um, Andy and CYL Makartnikov. I butcher his Discord name all the time, so my apologies. But they are both really putting in a lot of thought and effort to the swag. Um, as is every single team that's working in Arkham Con. I'm really just shout out to like all of the talented people who have been working on this. I'm just the loudmouth, right? There's so much talent going into putting this together. So it's such a group effort. So it's been great.
All right. If you have questions, comments, concerns, or elder signs, apparently, you can contact the Arkham Con team here at the bottom of the website. Of course, I've got a link to the website here in the description of this video, so no worries there. Let's wrap up by looking at going way at the top of the screen here and check out the schedule. Um, so there's the 4 days. The Thursday is the first day. A lot of people are showing up, depending on when their flight cuts in, and it's a little bit more open. in the morning. I remember this is when I usually have played Labyrinths of Lunacy because it's a three table standalone that usually doesn't get played. It's kind of a wonky scenario. It's one of the earliest. I'm not sure of the
I think it was the earliest.
yeah of the epic multiplayers, and I mean it's a fine scenario to do at least once because it's interesting, but uh, that tends to be one of these morning sessions. And then the other ones, yeah, we'll see. Some of them are not epic multiplayer with the entire room, right? Things like Machinations Against Time and Midwinter Gala are just a set number of tables, so we might see a lot more
Mhm.
of those on those days. But in the evening, you mentioned this before, the charity blob event,
Yep.
and there it is, the Arkham
Um,
pub trivia.
yeah. So that's going to be on Thursday, and I just want to say to everybody, like, I know traveling is challenging. Please do yourself a favor and do your best to get there for the whole day on Thursday because it's it's just as dynamic as Friday. And it gives you a little bit more time to like sink into the con, meet some people, get comfy. And then Friday is just going to be, so much more enjoyable. Now, again, like I said, traveling's difficult if you can only make it, for Friday. Totally understand, but yeah, we're going to have a lot of really cool things on Thursday, including, like you said, pub trivia. So yeah,
Yeah, I think the difficulty for everyone is always like, can I take off of work? And it is a 4 day con, so if you can only make the weekend, then you can only make the weekend. That's fine. It's still worth coming,
yeah,
especially if you're more local.
yeah,
Friday,
for sure.
that's going to be
Yeah.
more of the same, and then something else that we don't know about from 5:30 to 8:30.
Yes, that may or may not be one of the things that I am not revealing, but I promise you, it's gonna be it's gonna be quite the surprise and very cool. So yeah, yeah, I'm so excited about
And then this
it.
dev panel and live podcast recording. So that was in the past was Mythosbusters kind of led this. I don't know what plans you have for this slot yet, but
We know that dev panel is happening. Everything else is still a work in progress. So more on that to come. But we definitely know that it's happening. And as in years past, we're very excited, to see Duke and his team, reveal as much as they can at that time with like future campaign stuff. But I think this year is going to be really exciting because of the format changes and how that's really like, kind of impacting and altering the game as we go forward. So I think it's going to be yeah, pretty cool and lively discussion.
yeah, we'll see what they're able to talk about. In the past, it's been more uh, kind of retrospective of the campaign that was just released. So the Drowned City in this case. So feel free to ask as many questions as you want there. But yeah, maybe they can preview something about. I mean, who knows what other products might be released by then too, right? Midwinter Gala was released, I think, in last August, so we had that available to play and talk about too. So we'll see.
Yeah. And then if we move on to Saturday, which is the big Ironman day, um, I want to start out by saying that if you're hearing Iron Man and you know it's a speed run and you're thinking to yourself, "Wow, that does not sound appealing." That's not how I like to play Arkham. That's okay because you're not required to be in the Ironman event. I forgot to say that before. Feel free to not, and we're gonna have a whole open library. The head librarian, also known as Chad on Discord, so, he's going to have a lot of like fan made printed scenarios for people to kind of like check out like a library, play as they see fit. That's also a really fun thing to kind of explore off on your own, pretty much anytime during the whole weekend, but especially during it, like if you're not going to be playing Iron Man, like that's a really great opportunity or block of time to fool around with that kind of stuff.
And I'm not going to offer up the beard per se, but I remember in past years he was not someone who wanted to participate in Iron Man, but he was happy to sit there and play fan campaigns, some of his own stuff that he's developed, of course, with folks or other standalones during the day. So don't feel like you are the only person who is not interested in Iron Man for sure.
Yeah, I echo that sentiment completely.
So what about Iron Man?
Oh, what about? Well, I mean, so so let's. Oh gosh, we were talking about like decks and such. I mean, basically, this is the time that you're going to want to bring a deck that's very lean and very mean. Um, you know, I'll give you an example for me of like when we did Innsmouth Conspiracy for Iron Man. Me and my friend from Portland, when I was living in Portland at the time, we teamed up with two guys, Travis and Dan from the community, and they are very good at Iron Man. They do a lot of planning, and I was like, I want to play Patrice. And they said, that's probably not a good idea. And they're like, because Patrice is really fiddly and it's going to take a lot of bandwidth throughout the day in order to like run an investigator like Patrice. Now, everybody's different, but as we tested out certain decks, I saw that they were right. And I ended up going at the end of the day with uh, Leo Anderson slash Leo DeLuca sledgehammer deck. That was again lean, mean, and just designed to crush enemies. So why am I saying that? I'm saying that because when you decide what you want to run for your Iron Man experience, make sure that it's along the lines of simple because you're going to be thinking a lot that day.
Yeah,
Um,
so usually the way this goes is that you might have a person or two that that you want to be playing with, and even if not, you'll maybe submit your information to some organizer to help find a group. These usually run as four-player groups. You could run it as less if you want to, but generally these are full teams. Um, and yeah, the last couple times I've done it, I knew one person and then I got two people I didn't know, and it was a good time just to meet them. And the first time I didn't know anyone, so I was just put into a random group of four, and that was a great time too. So if you know people you want to play with, bring them along, talk about that with them, and then once you do get assigned with a group, which I want to say happens a month or so ahead of time, probably Augustish.
I will say the sign up sheets are not ready to be rolled out yet, but they should be rolled out, if I'm recalling correctly, within the next month or so. Yeah.
So sometime soon. But then yeah, once you know your group, you can get on a Discord group with them, an email chain, whatever is going to work for y'all, and discuss what you want to play. What roles. I don't recommend doing this if you've never played Carcosa before because there's a lot of metagaming probably involved. I'm not going to spoil one particular scenario if you haven't played it before, but yeah, this is generally for people who want to sit around and plan out, or at least listen to someone who's planned out all the story decisions and whatnot. So you might, in this case, decide if you're going to do a conviction or doubt run. Sometimes your plans go awry as you're going through the campaign with other people, but that's generally what happens is you kind of make some pre-decisions because the time is very short during, at least in my opinion, for the 12 hours. Like sometimes you can finish up pretty quick, but sometimes people even say we're just going to not play a scenario if there is a resign ability from the start, just like resign turn one and move on so you can finish on time. So all that stuff goes into the Iron Man discussion, which is kind of wild for Arkham. It is a somewhat of
Right.
a speed run. So when it comes to preparation, you mentioned like what kinds of things you might bring. In my experience, part of this discussion with your group is who's going to bring the encounter cards for which scenario so that the setup and breakdown time is minimal between scenarios.
Yeah. Like I ended up driving, so I ended up bringing the entire scenario. It was just easier that way for last year for Edge of the Earth. But yeah, man, if everyone is flying, this is a discussion that you're going to have with your crew. Like, who's bringing what? Sometimes it's uh, a little shaky. Sometimes, like I'm recalling, like the Forgotten Age, for example. The Forgotten Age as a campaign has a lot of cards that span uh, several scenarios. So you just want to pay attention to those kinds of things, like the Man in the Pallid Mask, for example, is just about in every single you know scenario. So yeah. Um, and just a quick shout out. Last year, so the two guys that I was referring to earlier, Dan and Travis. So they were not in my Ironman group last year, but they were doing Edge of the Earth. They were the only group that got that finished Edge of the Earth with only one partner dying, and that was the partner that died in the plane crash. And yes, that is possible. That you have to effectively finish certain scenarios far before the first like agenda even advances. So shout out to them. They went all in for their victory parameters. So
My group, on the other hand, we killed every single partner by the end. So, you know, that was not on purpose. That was not part of our plan, but in order for us to come out with a win, we had to do it. So, uh, it, I think, again, it takes all types. If you're in a group that really wants to just crush the game, and plan everything to the T. There's usually a planning document that's shared on the Mythos Busters Discord, by the way. That's very helpful. So that'll happen at some point in the future too, telling you about all the different decisions that you could be making. But in our case, like we had a lot of plans, and then things went awry because it's Arkham Horror, and with the brain drain, I think throughout the day, we just probably made some bad decisions as things went on. So we got the full body count there. But it was still fun, and we still won the campaign technically. So
that's great. In years past, it's been said that finishing is winning. So realistically, your own goals for you finishing are your own goals. There's no like looking down upon any other group or anything like that. Really, it's just like for you, if you want to finish in a particular way and you do, I mean, that's like your own accomplishment.
yeah, I just would have some of that discussion with the other people in your group. Um, Personally, I'm not going to bring a deck that requires me to do a lot of math. Anything that says succeed by whatever, I will completely lose track, and I will be very angry by the end. I'll get a nosebleed and all the rest. So maybe don't play those decks if that feels like a burden on you when you play normally, because you're going to be doing it, 8 scenarios or so. So yeah, just be aware of that. I think it's a little bit.
Do you recall the one? I think it was the year the Innsmouth Ironman was going on, that someone brought a Mandy Thompson and went. I know, right? That face is real for sure. But what they did was they put different color sticky note strips on the side of the card, so that when they had to search through for specific things in their deck, it was all color coded, so it could be like super rapid and ready to go.
How did they do that without, like, I don't want to say cheating, but not without seeing the cards in the side of the deck already?
It was in a place where you could only, if you were really just looking at the card, it was in a place where you could just see it on that side, not on the.
So it wasn't like on the side of the
Yeah.
card or something. God, yeah. Okay.
No, no.
Cool. I mean, those are some cool ideas that people have. And again, like I said before about seeing other people's swag, learning about other people's play styles, learning about, these kind of mnemonic tricks, I suppose, for keeping track of things is really neat. Uh,
Right.
yeah, I mean, again, Iron Man isn't for everyone, but it is a really cool experience, and you do feel like your group is going through something together.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like quite the singular experience. I've really never experienced anything like it.
I've done like play a whole campaign in a weekend before, with my buddies, but the doing it all in one sitting, more or less, from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. is tough. And you might be asking, what about like getting up to use the bathroom or getting food or whatnot? Like that's another thing that people are allowed to bring in, like some snacks, and you can order food in any of these days because there's no on-site food really at the game center. There's drinks. You may
Yeah.
be careful about how much you drink during the Ironman because
Well, if you're drinking water, go for it. They do have beer there too. So once again, please police yourself in that regard because you're gonna get pretty burnt out through the day. I brought a whole cooler of nuts, um, some like meaty proteiny bits, and then fruit. So and then some like I don't know, like LaCroix because I'm fancy like that. I don't know. But ultimately what I'm trying to say is like come prepared to, to snack and then maybe do a little Grubhub uh drop off. That's totally doable there as well.
that's going to happen. You're going to see a lot of people
Yeah.
who are confused when they arrive at the game center, wondering who they're delivering the food to. But yeah,
Yeah.
bring some
Because
snacks. Granola
the
bars are good. Maybe stay away from the flaming hot Cheetos because you're going to be putting your fingers in the chaos bag a lot. But
so the first year I think the GZ did serve food, and then last year they kind of cut that out. So yeah, I think it is going to be no food this year once again.
mhm. Okay, well that is Saturday, and I should also mention that usually for the folks who are going back to the hotel after 10, there's a little bit of at least in the past there's been a room for the folks who are going to the con to socialize, hang out, party a little bit. So that's always a good time too if you're into that. But then there's the real after party, which is Sunday.
Oh my gosh, Sunday is such a hoot. So it's really just an open gaming day. So if you find yourself, oh my gosh, I can't even think about Arkham Horror anymore. This is your day because you basically get to wander around and play whatever's there or bring a game that you really want to introduce to people. So for example, last year I got to play a couple games of Dune Imperium with folks and I was very excited about that. As well as I got introduced to Compile, the 1v1 card game, which I immediately bought after that. It was so amazing.
I played Galaxy Trucker for the first time. That was fun.
Cool.
So yeah, it's
Very
a
cool.
good time to play a different game with the people that you've met and made friends with during the weekend. Sometimes it's been bringing games that are kind of out of print and playing them with other people too.
Sure. Sure. Yeah. A lot of people play or bring Netrunner and are running Netrunner. I know some of the busters were really excited in years past to bring the old Star Wars uh, card game that's out of print. But if you really want to play more Arkham, we have a voted on Epic multiplayer that day as well. So there will be more Arkham played that day. So yeah, it's
Go home because there's no more Arkham. But yes, people tend to, go catch their flight on Sunday afternoon if they have to get back to work on Monday, which probably is the case for many of us. Uh, any other things that we should mention? This is, I mean, the schedule, and it's really cool. But what if you want to learn more and kind of follow discussions about um, Arkham Con? Is there in the past the Mythos Busters Discord itself had a couple of channels that was talking about, what's going on
oh yeah,
and
we have an Arkham Con channel on the Discord. So basically that's if you have any questions, that's where I would start. Um but also the website is a huge, fountain of knowledge. You have three main areas: home, schedule, and attending. So attending will ultimately tell you exactly where the game center is. It has a map that shows you exactly how close the DoubleTree is to game center. Um, yeah. Um, and it has a little bit blurb about traveling. You know, ultimately, if you're coming from the airport, you may want to get a taxi or an Uber or Lyft. Um,
Don't take a train like this one. You might fall off the back of it.
yeah. I think that's really about it. Everything else, I would just peruse the website. If you realize that you need some more information, give us a shout on. I mean, either email us. I think our email is on the website, or just go to the Mythos Busters Discord and go into the Arkham Con channel, and anyone's there to help you out.
And I bet if you have some questions and want to write comments here on this video, someone will be able to answer them. Maybe you, maybe someone else who's involved. So we'll be checking that out too. So reminder, it is September 11th through 14th, and the ticketing, I'll just show that again. If you get your ticket before the end of this month, March, then it is a little bit cheaper. And if you can't quite commit to it right now, that's okay. The benefit, of course, for committing early is it's just more information for those who are organizing to get the best swag for everyone. And so far, the numbers you've said have been really good. So, probably hitting that 125 mark or so will happen. Uh, Maybe not by the end of March, but probably sometime in that middle or late time. So I wouldn't sit on this until the beginning of September to make your decision unless you kind of have to. But yeah, it's gonna be a good time. I'm looking forward to being there again. I'm sure that you're looking forward to seeing a bunch of old faces and some new faces. So don't worry about it if this is not something you've done before, gone to any con whatsoever. This is going to be very friendly and open to our small community. So, any other last things you want to chime in with?
Just that we're really excited to keep the momentum going. That's basically it. And thanks for having me on your channel. Really appreciate it. But yeah, the team is so excited for all of the things that we have planned for the con. So yeah.
All right, great. Well, thanks for being here and talking about all the work that you've done, and we'll see you in Minnesota in a few months.